Alexander McQueen series episode 4 for spring 2009 ready-to-wear collection called Natural Distinction and Natural Selection. Hey fashion friends! Today we are talking about McQueen's 33rd collection in his career for spring and summer 2009, which examined the impact of humanity on the environment. We will look into the venue, into the inspiration, of course there will be a big deep dive into the collection. We will look into close detail of some garments and some backstage photos, which is gonna be very interesting. We will also talk about hair and makeup and shoes, and at the end we will read a few of the reviews from the industry people about this show and the overall impact of this spectacle on McQueen's career. So let's start with talking about the venue. In the usual dramatic mood of McQueen, the visuals of a spinning earth were playing at the background of the catwalk, and the models walking out of backstage were surrounded by stuffed representations of endangered animals. It was almost like a theatrical set, and the runway was set to evoke in the viewer deep environmental reflection. The catwalk was made out of concrete, onto which images of glowing sun, silver moon and the earth rotating on its axis were showing. The catwalk was framed with two lines of exotic taxidermy stuffed animals, including an elephant, giraffe and several large cats. The show opened with a soundtrack of animal noises such as roaring, hoofbeats and elephant calls, before transitioning to electronic dance music. A large round screen at the rear of the catwalk was showing projections of celestial bodies and McQueen's own eyeball. 41 looks were presented at the collection's runway, which was hosted on the 3rd of October 2008 at Saint-Quatre building in Paris, which is a community center that was once a mortuary. The invitation to the show was also very interesting, as it featured a lenticular by Gary James McQueen, which was the designer's nephew. The image of Alexander McQueen's face was morphed into a human skull, which was hinting the vulnerability of life. Gary worked as a menswear assistant with the company and created the skull image as a print for the menswear line. Alexander McQueen decided he wanted to use it for this show instead and had his nephew rework it into a shifting image for the invite. Now, what was the inspiration behind this season's collection? As some of you know, in the final years of McQueen's career, he became increasingly concerned about human activity damaging and impacting the natural world. He felt that humans were beginning to overpower nature and were in danger of killing the planet through greed, as he said, which would lead to the extinction of life on Earth. Variations on these ideas formed the basis for his last 3 completed collections. We already know this from the Plato's Atlantis collection review. If you haven't watched this, I will link it somewhere up there and below, so if you didn't watch it you can catch up, as we already spoke about this. Inspired by Darwin's theories and industrialization's effects on the planet, and in particular the impact of the destructive nature of man, McQueen crafted a collection that balanced fantasy, romance, and social commentary. He decided to divide the collection into 2 separate parts to convey his message. Across both phases, McQueen presented both classical and experimental silhouettes. So let's look now at the first part of the show. The first half of the show was inspired by nature. It featured fluid organic tailoring with a focus on texture and delicate details. The wood print tailoring was particularly striking, bringing a sense of nature's patterns into the structured world of fashion. The dresses, often adorned with pink or lemon-colored flowers, were layered under short nude netting, creating a soft, almost whimsical effect. These pieces were a nod to the world untouched by human interference, with shapes that retain McQueen's signature frock coat, skinny leg pants, and hourglass silhouettes, but reinterpreted in a gentler, more fluid way. The first phase of the show also used organic motifs and flowing lines to present an image of nature untouched yet by men. The designs from this part of the collection played a big role juxtaposing the natural and the technological. Most dresses were cut from a single piece of fabric, emphasizing simplicity, while at the same time silk flowers strapped in tulle were referencing Victorian specimen jars. True to his couture roots, McQueen's meticulous craftsmanship shone through. Lace detailing mimicked flowers and birds, extending to shoes adorned with delicate wrappings. What makes this collection unforgettable is its dual impact, a celebration of nature's beauty and at the same time a warning about nature's fragility. As for decorative motifs, there were metallic buttercups on mini dresses dripped with acid yellow enamels, which provided a point of contrast to whitework embroidery and beetle wing sequins. This cool, by that point a McQueen signature, appeared on the front of a white mini dress in look number 7. This phase closed with a trio of mini dresses covered with metallic enamel flowers, contrasting the softness of the preceding items. Let's look at some of these garments in details. From the first part, I will pick few of my favorites and I'll show you like a very zoomed in, detailed look into them. I chose 3 looks that I would like to show you up close, starting with look number 9, which is a wooden engineered print dress. As we know, McQueen was a genius when it came to draping. He could cut one massive piece of material into the most elaborated design. Please bear in mind that he had to drape the material in a way which forms the print in such a nice way. There was no pattern to be cut from. He just saw an idea in his head, cut the material up with his scissors, and then he formed it on the mannequin, and that's how those beautiful designs came to life. The form of this dress is very beautiful and flowy, and it was this show that was the start of fashion houses working with print in such an innovative way. Another look I chose is number 11, which is a masterpiece. We have a long sleeve dress with puffy sleeves and classic McQueen high collar. I love the contrast between tiny waist and the exaggerated hips by those 2 side draping panels. The corset itself is a piece of art. I mean, look at all of those details and cutouts. You can see the best quality materials were used, both for the corset and for the dress, which is very silky, soft and flowy. I think this look is absolutely gorgeous. And for the final look, I selected Silhouette 16 with the model Magdalena Frąckowiak. She was one of the designer's favorite models. She's dressed in this fully beaded jumpsuit with extended shoulders. She just looked magnificent, and this look was one of the most spectacular from this show. She almost looked like some kind of reptile stepping out into the new world of McQueen. It looked amazing. So why won't we look now into the second part of the collection and see how was it different from the first one. As the show transitioned into the darker, more futuristic segment, McQueen introduced sharper, edgier designs that reflected the growing impact of industrialization and technology. The standout pieces were black crystal encrusted dresses and bodysuits that shimmered with the otherworldly quality. The textures were bold with dramatic fringing in shades of grey and pink, cascading down the bodies in a way that felt both delicate and fierce. The second part featured prints which were manipulated to look unnaturally perfect, with some designs in artificially bright colors and others in black and white. It opened with a short series of tailored mini dresses in brightly colored patterns, before transitioning to evening wear with leather dresses and tailored pattern looks in monochrome. This part also continued to present natural forms of inspiration such as flowers, crystals, and minerals. However, they were engineered with a hard edge and enhanced to present the synthetic qualities associated with modernity and the human touch. It featured prints manipulated to look unnaturally perfect, angular, and symmetrical, which is not always the case in nature. When it comes to materials, there were mostly artificial and structured textiles, such as lycra for leggings and dresses, and bonded leather, which was dyed black, calling to mind somehow fetish wear perhaps. Some dresses and jumpsuits were encrusted with minerals. The prints in this part were angular and resembled crushed crystal and metallic surfaces, such as the Eiffel Tower and Granite Mountain, borrowed from the Dan Holdsworth triptych. In one of the silhouettes, a diamond print was evolving into a human skeleton. The collection's more experimental designs exaggerated the wearer's body beyond natural human proportions, with cinched waist and padded shoulders and hips. You can say that some of the garments were designed to fit the Victorian-era mannequin, leading to what Susanna Frankel called a slightly truncated hourglass silhouette. Wearable items like leggings and shift dresses hinted at McQueen's effort to keep the collection viable for retail sales. Despite this, McQueen's characteristic tailoring appeared in precisely cut mini dresses, frock coats, and slim trouser suits. High Edwardian collars and leg of mutton sleeves showcase his ever-present historicist tendencies. Throughout the show, we can spot bell jar-shaped dresses and bodysuit encrusted with jet, gold, and silver Swarovski crystals. Sharper silhouettes were complemented by a color palette that incorporated black and white, as well as vivid pinks and sapphires. The final four looks were a series of dresses and jumpsuit encrusted with minerals, including the last jumpsuit covered entirely with pieces of real amber. Now let's look into some of these garments in detail. I will show you some of my favorites and you can comment below which ones did you like the most. From this part of the show, I also chose 3 looks, starting from look number 35, chosen purely because of the immaculate tailoring. The dress can seem to be simple, but it was beautifully designed with the see-through paneling and bell-shaped bottom of the dress. I love how the sleeves cut off just at the elbow. It seems like it is the only logical sleeve length for this dress, which also emphasizes how tiny the waist is. The shoes are also a great addition to the leather total look, and I think this is such a strong silhouette in this collection. Look 37 is the one that was inspired by the construction of the Eiffel Tower. As you can see, all the construction elements were also digitally manipulated and created a new print with the precisely symmetrical layout of the garment. I also loved the super low neckline of the dress, which showed up the gorgeous crystal elements on the chest, which were glued to the model. Look 40 was quite phenomenal, as when the model walked, a million crystals were shining from the catwalk lights. The mini dress has long sleeves and exaggerated bell-shaped silhouette with waist and inner part of the arms being sheer. The shoes complemented the total look with the heel, which looked like a real-life mineral. I think this look was absolutely gorgeous. Now I think it's a good time for you to let me know which one of the looks was your favorite and why, or if you cannot pick, just let me know like 2, 3 which were the best, in your opinion of course. Alexander McQueen tried to explain in the show notes that he was not aiming to preach, but we can see through this show that his belief in the earth being in danger of dying because of human greed was fundamental, and we could see it in his next collections also, because it was an issue that was on McQueen's mind for a long time, and he made it clear through his collection that he has been concerned about the earth and its well-being and its future. As Alexander McQueen himself said, "I have always loved the mechanics of nature, and to a greater or lesser extent my work is always informed by that." Now let's look into some hair and makeup, which was obviously insane. Models were styled with the see-through hairnets used as veils over their heads and faces. It almost looked as though the models were freshly born specimens of a new breed. The hairstylist Paul Hanlon said that the looks were inspired by insects, nymphs, veins all over the face. As you can see on the board here, half of the models had their eyebrows and the other half didn't have any eyebrows, they were bleached. When it came to hair, it was also hidden under the net like the face, but the hair was braided and twisted all the way up to make it look like almost an insect's tail. If the model didn't have long hair, there was hair extension to be twisted and put up there. Some models were decorated also on their faces or on their necks with some crystals and beads to make it look more animal-like. I also think it's important to talk about the shoes, as me and McQueen's shoes are like that. I really love what McQueen did with the shoes in all of the collections, so why don't we take 2 minutes to talk about the shoes? Alexander McQueen was known for his extraordinary shoe designs, and for Spring 2009 show there were no exceptions. Starting with shoes resembling female feet in 2 colorways, then we have shoes with twisted heels, shoes with lace material holding the ankle, also in many colorways and variations, leather shoes with metal twisted heel, fully crystal shoes. We have heels decorated with gemstones and fully beaded shoes with twisted wooden heel. As a cherry on top, we have shoes covered with real amber. Which one did you like the most? Now let's jump into some conclusions and let's look into some reviews of the show. So the contemporary critical response was somehow mixed. The journalists preferring more romantic first half of the show. Some were disappointed at the lack of runway theatrics for which McQueen had been known for so far. McQueen continued to explore environmental themes and digital prints in his following 2 collections. He is credited with popularizing the use of such prints in fashion. Ensembles from Natural Dis-tinction are held by various museums and have appeared in exhibitions such as the McQueen's retrospective Alexander McQueen Savage Beauty, which I saw in person and it was insane. If you can get your hands on the book from this exhibition, I highly recommend because it is a gem. Some reviewers said that they were surprised that it did not lead to the kind of dark, angry collection that McQueen was known for. Critics generally preferred the first half of the collection, and do you agree with them? Do you think that the first half of the show was somehow better, more interesting than the second one? Please let me know in the comments. Like always, I would love to know your opinion on that. I think both parts of the show were incredible and one would not exist without the other because they were meant to be juxtaposing 2 different things. So one was natural world and the second was natural world enhanced by technology. So you really needed them both in order to be able to understand the whole concept of this collection. Even though the inspiration was quite dark because the earth dying from human intervention, but the design somehow came out quite playful if you ask me, at least the first part. There were so many colors and the stuffed animals also somehow made it quite playful, and the cherry on top was Alexander McQueen coming out of the backstage dressed in a bunny costume. It was just hilarious and I think no one expected that, and it was just like a playfulness 100% unexpected from McQueen. Thank you so much for sticking until the end. In the comments, let me know your favorite. Perhaps what did you think about the shoes, or what did you think about the hair and makeup? Do you think it matched the clothes or maybe it didn't? Let me know which part of the show you liked more, and let's keep the McQueen's life going. Let's keep talking about him. Let's keep watching videos with his shows so we can keep his memory alive, as he was the greatest designer of all time.